Now that we've added the finishing touches on the daisy bouquet, it's time to work on the vase that's holding all of these flowers together. Let's create a light wash by adding water to a touch of phthalo blue. The more water you add, the lighter the shade will become. Begin in the top corner of the vase and pull the color around the outline of the vessel. Just trace around the sides and bottom, adding more color as needed. While the outline is still wet, make an even lighter wash of blue color and pull the color right over the top of your daisy stems. As you paint over the stems, blend the color towards the outer edges of the vase. Your stems will look like they're submerged. Complete this area quickly so the stems do not re-wet and bleed. You can pull some of the blue color away from the paper to create a highlight. While the paint is wet, drag a clean brush through the color to swab away any extra or unwanted paint. Complete the shape of the vase by filling in the top area and refining the edges with subtle highlights. Before finishing the vase, let the entire painting dry so the colors won't run together. Now that the painting is dry, fill in the area behind the stems with a wash of phthalo blue. This time, instead of brushing paint over the stems, just fill in the areas around the green. Add a final wash of blue color to the top of the water, painting a glaze layer over the top of the stems and the first layer of water. You can also add a few more brush strokes of blue at the foot and sides of the vase for definition. These three harmonious watercolors come together to create so many useful shades. I hope you enjoy painting your bouquet with a rainbow of color. The Daffodil project brings the breezy colors of spring to your palette with three lovely watercolors. We'll paint sun-dappled petals and stunning blossoms in celebration of a fresh new season. Let me begin by introducing the colors we'll be using. Lemon yellow is a bright, sunny yellow that brings warmth and energy to your painting. This popular mixing color is low staining and non-granulating for a flawless finish in washes. Quinacridone Sienna is a bright, earthy orange. This watercolor is very transparent and highly saturated, making it a great choice for glazes and brilliant washes of color. Try using this remarkable watercolor as a substitute for burnt sienna to add vibrancy to your work. Viridian is a clean, mid-range green with a gem-like quality. This emerald-hued watercolor is fantastic in mixtures. It is transparent and non-staining, and mixed with water washes out to a soft blue-green. Let's get started with the daffodil painting by bringing together the colors of spring's first flower. I'm loading my brush with a mixture of lemon yellow and water. I've created this mixture by re-wetting the lemon yellow watercolor with clear water and really working a good amount of this mixture into my brush. Using this nice wet wash of lemon yellow, I'm painting my way around the flower petals in the line drawing. For the first part of this painting, keep the paint very bright and clean, and keep your brush loaded with the mixture. If necessary, add more water to keep the paint flowing. You should be able to enjoy using a nice light touch to add this sunny yellow to the paper. A good quality round watercolor brush is very useful here. Your brush should keep a nice point to paint in all the detailed areas of this petal. I'm going to work into the second flower as well. We'll come in later with more color to differentiate these flowers from each other and add more details. For now, simply fill in the color on the outer petals of these daffodils. Make sure to leave the center of the flower unpainted. We'll come back to that area later. Now I'm going to show you some mixtures of green using our project colors. I have a blank sheet of paper here to test out some of the different green tones that can be created. I'm moving some of the lemon yellow paint to an empty well in the palette. To this yellow, I'm adding just a bit of viridian. This mixture creates a nice spring green. I'm going to make a second mixture by starting with lemon yellow again, but I'm adding more viridian to this mixture. The result is a deeper green shade. Viridian is a great color for mixing. The third line of green is pure viridian. I've not mixed in any lemon yellow. For this painting, the tone of pure viridian is a little too emerald. For a more natural looking, fresh green, we'll use a combination of the first two mixed greens. First, use the darker of the two mixed greens to paint in some color on the daffodil leaves. I'm using the point of my brush to work around the stem of the flower. Later we'll come back to those stems, which should remain white for now. Gently work around the petals of the flower. If the petals of your flower are wet, let them dry so that the yellow and green do not run together. For the second leaf of the daffodil, switch to the lighter shade of mixed green that you created earlier. This will give us light contrast between the two leaves and make the second leaf look like it's sitting slightly in front of the other. Keep this mixture nice and wet so you can follow around the contours of the line drawing. Next, we'll let this painting dry. You can even use a hairdryer to speed along the process if you like. Once it's dry, we'll come back in and add some details to the stems and centers of the flowers. Now that the painting is dry, I'm creating a slightly darker green by adding more viridian to our dark green mixture. To make this color even deeper, I'm adding just a touch of quinacridone sienna into the mixture. Starting with a very small amount, I'm just dipping my brush into the quinacridone sienna once and combining with my dark green. As you can see, the result is a very deep color. Use this color for the little dry areas that happen right under the daffodil as the blossoms open up. There is a shadow here, and this part of the flower is a deeper green. Next, come in with a dry brush and pull a little highlight out of this area. Now mix more viridian into your brightest green for a nice, rich green for the stems of the flowers. You can see this color is slightly varied from the other mixtures we have used. Keep a lot of paint on the brush and pull in gentle strokes all the way to the top of the flower stem. Repeat this technique on the second stem. You should see that the stem color is slightly different from the color of the leaves. While the leaves and stems of the flowers dry, we'll move to the center portion of the flower to bring in some color and life in these blossoms. For the center of the flowers, use the quinacridone sienna mixed with just a little bit of water. This vibrant color will create a nice focal point on the faces of these flowers. First block in the color in this area with a fluid wash. Work all the way around and fill in where the line drawing indicates. You can use a dry brush if necessary to pull out some of the extra pigment in these areas. The result should be a nice, clean, mid-range orange. On the next flower, use the same process to create an even wash on the center of this flower. Later, once this area is dry, we'll add more details to this central area. While the quinacridone sienna is drying on the center of these flowers, let's add details to the surrounding petals. Begin by moving some lemon yellow to a clean well in your palette. Add just a touch of quinacridone sienna. In this mixture, a little bit of quinacridone sienna will go a long way. The lemon yellow is a delicate hue in comparison with quinacridone sienna, so begin by adding the sienna in very small amounts. The resulting mixture will be a medium yellow-orange. Add even more sienna or yellow to adjust the color as necessary. Use this color along the edges of the daffodil petals. You can trace along the edges of your line drawing, tracing the lines right into the center of the flower. This will create a shadow and add some contrast that will define your flowers. You can also add lines through the center of the petals to add interest. You won't need much color here to create a dramatic looking flower. After adding the deeper tones, come in with a damp brush and blend the edges of your lines. This is very subtle, but it will add a softness and realism to the petals. Use the same technique on the second flower, creating shadow on the lines and blending. You want to add just enough of this orange to create shape, but not so much that you lose the wonderful bright yellow tone. Now that the stems of the flowers are dry, come back in with some more of the Viridian mixture and add a second layer of paint to the stems. This is a glaze layer, meaning we are adding more paint to the dry layer below. This will create a deeper, vibrant color that will pop away from the leaf that is behind the stem. To finish this painting, revisit the center areas of the flower that are now dry. Load the brush with quinacridone sienna and make a glaze that will add another layer to the center of this flower. Trace around the line drawing on the inside of the flower. This inside is almost like a cup shape, so you can imagine the shape having some depth to it. To create the illusion of depth underneath, add more quinacridone sienna at the base of this shape, working around the outer petals of this structure. This first flower is facing outward, and the second flower is facing to the side. Begin the second flower by painting a deep glaze at the bottom of the center structure. Leave the top dry here to create a highlight. This flower also has some depth in the central structure, so trace into the center of the flower. Also follow the lines up to the top of the petals. Come in with some water to do some gentle blending so that the shading on the flower looks natural. The final details of the flower are painted with a dark mixture of the quinacridone sienna. Your finished daffodils are the epitome of spring. Now you can enjoy the bright, transparent colors of this project in all your watercolor works. The Marigold project is a bright combination of watercolor, perfect for painting the summertime flower. You'll mix a range of reds, oranges, and warm yellows, then balance these colors with stems and leaves of rich green. This marigold is painted with the following watercolors. Cerulean, or cobalt yellow, is a bright and sunny yellow. This color has a smooth finish with no granulation. Its transparent quality makes it useful in watercolor for washes and glazes. Permanent alizarin crimson is an updated version of traditional alizarin crimson with the added advantage of permanence. This color is very light fast, so it will not fade in the sunlight. It is a bright red with transparency and a smooth finish. Perylene green is a rich and intense green. It is a wonderful color choice for dark areas of foliage or the undersides of leaves, anywhere where you need a nice, deep green for shadow. It is nearly black in mass tone and washes to a beautiful blue-green. We'll be